All right, welcome back to Wrestling Retold and Relived with Richie Mars. I, of course, am your humble, gracious host, Richie Mars, and it's something a little bit different today. I've had these two on before. We talked about Batista's acting career, but now we're talking about an actual movie starring one of my personal favorites of all time, Edge, Adam Copeland, and we're going to jump on board the Money Plane. Please welcome our friends at Shoot the Flick, Scott Eisenberg and Frankie Sparks.
Woo!
Woo!
I wish I was more excited.
About it's funny because even with you saying it, even with all the amazing actors who are in this movie, just saying the words "money
Money plane."
plane" doesn't ever sound good.
Every time a character said money plane in this movie, I just couldn't help but laugh. It was really bad. It was rough, man.
Okay, before we get into the actual movie, The Money Plane, we'll rewind a little bit. How did you guys find out about The Money Plane?
So I had found out about it because I watch these movie reviewers online called Red Letter Media, and it was during the pandemic, and they were ever so desperate for entertainment, as so many of us were, and they came upon this like stupid movie called Money Plane, and everyone was kind of talking about it as like a so bad it's good option, but that's questionable. We'll talk about it. But yeah, I listened to that review, and since then, because I know Scott's a big wrestling fan, as of course Richie is, so whenever Scott brings up wrestling, I just try to throw in the Money Plane whenever I can.
Yeah, I think I heard about it from some review, maybe not Red Letter Media, but I again, you hear about all these random movies starring wrestlers, and you're like, oh, that one, yeah. Sometimes you just like you watch the trailer. Like we watched the trailer for this before we watched the movie, and that trailer went on for fucking. The trailer felt long.
The movie felt longer.
It's sad because the movie's only an hour and like 22 minutes long,
Oh my god.
and it felt like 3.
It really did, yeah.
I agree. When I watched this movie last week, and I started at 10 o'clock on the dot because I'm like, all right, let's get this out of the way. When I was watching it, like after the movie, like, when you come out of the theater and you get kind of like that day blindness and you're like, man, how long have I been there? I thought it was like 3 o'clock. I thought it was like well past afternoon. And I looked at my watch and it was like 11:30, and I was like,
oh my god.
gosh. So it's like we're gonna get into that movie really quick, but we're gonna get back into like some of the production history of this movie. It is directed by Andrew Lawrence. Now, if that name sounds familiar, he is the youngest of the Lawrence brothers.
We love the Lawrence brothers.
And this is his directorial debut.
Oh boy.
And he also penned the screenplay at the request of the producers Richard Switzers and Tyler W. Connie. So I have an interesting history with Richard that you guys might not know about. So he did an interview when this movie was coming out because there was actually some press for this So Bad It's Good movie. And he actually had 31 credits to his name, including a film with Dolph Lundgren that went direct to DVD. But he said,
Cop 2?
No,
Is
it's
it
not
really?
Kindergarten Cop. No, it's not Kindergarten Cop.
That would have been funny.
But he actually went to the same wrestling show that I did. He went to the Royal Rumble 2008 where Edge faced off against Rey Mysterio. And he said, that's when I knew. No, he didn't say this, but I'm just assuming. And then that's when he said, that's when the idea of Money Plane was concocted.
That's when I knew I had my star.
And to go on a little bit by the production history, it's Andrew Lawrence's first movie, directorial debut, had help with his brothers, and they wrote the part of Kelsey Grammar's part of the Rumbler, the Rumble.
Oh my god.
Who he plays in the movie. And they expected him to say no. But Kelsey Grammer said
he was going to do it.
Yeah, and he said yes because it reminded him of a mustache twirling villain from the 20s or 30s. You know, tie somebody up in the railroad tracks, and that's what you get.
Of course, Fraiser would say that. Like, okay.
Yes, Kelsey Grammar, best known for Cheers and Frasier.
He had zero intimidatingness.
Because he's
Like,
Kelsey Grammar.
but like you, in order to be a villain, I would imagine there has to be. You can be like a scrawny, smart guy and still be intimidating.
You can, but there's usually got to be like some sort of like angle behind it. Like there's got to be like a muscle, or like
No,
you're so scary that
no,
like
none of that.
just the fact that like you're the way you speak to people. Like Kelsey Grammer doesn't have that. Like when I think
No.
of stuff like that, like I think of like Elijah Wood in Sin City, where you look at Elijah Wood, you're like, this guy isn't scary, but you see him in Sin City and you're like, this motherfucker killed people.
All right, are you guys ready to hear about the budget of the movie?
$2.
No, definitely not $2.
Are we breaking $1 million with this one? Higher or lower than $1 million?
I would say, yeah, I would say higher than $1 million.
Okay, so the budget was $838,109.
Damn.
I love 109.
I was gonna say like maybe over like 1.2 mil, just
but
because
we're
Lawrence
not
Brothers.
done. We're not done yet. This movie actually made box office.
Oh, they released it in theaters?
They released it in theaters during
That's
the
scary.
pandemic.
Oh, God,
So,
pandemic.
what do you guys want to guess what the box office is?
Like $500.
I'm gonna guess 2,262.
All right.
Okay.
How about we meet in the middle a little bit? It is $618.
That's so sad. Why would they do that?
Again, this was released during the pandemic, and I've learned a lot through my research about the B movie market. So
Oh, well.
I'm
yeah.
not sure if you guys know about the B movie market, and I'm not
Oh,
talking
for
about
sure.
that,
I mean, I know
that
this
lovely
production
film with Jerry
company.
Seinfeld.
Yeah, I know this production company is the same company that made the Karen movie, and it's the same movie that made The Fanatic, which is like a pretty well known in So Bad It's Good movie culture with John Travolta, and he plays like a guy with mental problems and he's stalking Devon Sawa, and it's just, oh god. So yeah.
And that movie also has a wrestling connection because it's directed by Fred Durst.
Oh no.
You can't escape them.
I don't want to talk about Limp Bizkit this early in the day.
No. God.
Well, you're not rolling, Richie?
I'm not rolling today. I'm gonna do this my way. Let me tell you, I'm gonna do this my
Christ.
way. If we could do this whole new metal thing all day, if we can, but no, I'm not gonna subject us towards that. All right, so we watched this movie. Are you guys ready to get into the nitty and the gritty? If I could steal your line.
Hey.
We will. You will be hearing from our lawyers, but we are ready.
Yes.
Well, we have it on record, so. All right, let's get ready to relive the flick. See what I did there?
Scaled.
All right, we open up what I assume, and I was surprised that it goes for a drone shot, but it's a drone shot into what I thought was a mental institution, but is actually an art museum.
I love.
An institution.
I love the fact that they decide we can't name the art museum
No, just call it art museum.
and make it look obnoxiously like a warehouse.
The budget for this, I mean, a lot of these B movies, especially the ones with wrestlers, like the ones that I've seen, I haven't seen that many, probably less than you guys, but I know they all have bad budgets. But this one's like really rough. Like this one, like in the opening scene, they have like these dividers up that like look like they're in an airport, kind of like where they're like patting people down off to the side. That's what it looked like to me. And then later on, when they're actually in an airport, they don't have those dividers. They have just like curtains in like a fucking back corner somewhere, and that's supposed to be the airport. It's very confusing.
So we open up. We're in the art museum / mental institution, where our main character Jack Reese, played by Adam Copeland Edge, is planning his next heist with his team, and that is to grab this luxurious painting from the building.
Oh, do you know the name of that painting, Richie?
Take it away.
The Disturbed Duckling.
Did
We've
they
the
say that in
whole-
the movie?
Yes, they do.
Yes.
Oh my god, I was not paying
And then
attention.
the whole time we were like trying to figure out what it looked like, and then like the last scene of the movie they show it for a second, and we just busted out laughing. It's so dumb, but anyway.
So this is the first thing with Edge.
He's terrible.
He feels very wooden.
So wooden. He's like a cardboard cut out of a person.
And it's sad because when you watch him in wrestling, he's got charisma. Like he's got an attitude about him, and it just feels like he's not right for this.
Now let's pivot towards that. Now, with other wrestlers in movies like Batista, John Cena, The Rock, they have some sort of screen presence about them. What do they have other than charisma that Edge doesn't? Because he's just as, if not more so, physically imposing when it comes to just like him height wise. Like, he's a very tall guy. He's about 6'4". So why isn't that really translating to this film?
Well, I think Edge doesn't have the experience of the other guys. But I feel like early on in Batista's career, because let's compare him to the most recent, like Batista, he had other people to lean on in his better movies until he got more confident in his acting ability. But like, it feels like they aren't taking advantage of what he does well. Honestly, I think he would be a better villain than he would be a good guy.
That's possible.
That. Yeah.
I think what I said while we were watching the movie was that he looks he looks nervous almost. He looks like he doesn't feel comfortable. And I feel like what you said about Batista was right, or like in the beginning you had to like feel him out, and then once he did more movies he was more confident. And that's probably the same with The Rock too. I mean, I would assume.
Well, early on in The Rock's career, he had roles where he was with Michael Clark Duncan,
right,
and some other character actors. Like he did the movie with Sean William Scott.
Well, let's not look to Sean William Scott for.
But these guys have experience. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
I'm not saying they're great actors, but they can lean on those guys and be like, okay, I don't have to be the guy.
Right. But yeah, I think him being the leader of his little gang here, and they didn't give him, and I don't know if it's just the writing or just him, I don't know, but they didn't give really anything to work with. Like, he didn't really have much of a personality.
Oh,
right.
What frustrates them, and the other thing that frustrates me about things like Money Plane, and early on, like movies like for Batista, like Wrong Side of Town.
Ugh.
Like those movies, you have a guy who has demonstrated he can perform physically, wrestler, WWE, and we do these quick cuts to make them look like they can't fight. And it drives me insane.
Yeah, we'll get to that one fight scene in the movie, or one fight scene Edge has in the movie. But as we start out, we have Jack Reese. He is trying to pull off his heist with his team, who are outside posing as, I believe, plumbers, if I'm not mistaken.
Something like that. Yeah, the truck does say plumbing.
Yeah, so I assume they're plumbing, even though Edge doesn't have any equipment with him about plumbing in this scene.
Oh, and also there's nary an extra in this movie anywhere. They're supposed to be at some museum, and there's not one person other than Edge in this museum.
Well, let's even go into the museum. The museum is, we walk through the fucking
closet.
Metal detector. We go through a metal detector, and there's 3 doors. This isn't the museum. This is like.
Here's what got me, and this is, again, we're not even 2 minutes into this film.
2 minutes.
We're already pretty angry. But Edge Jack Reese has like his voiceover saying you need the right crew, and then the guy behind the desk immediately doesn't do his job to help Edge out because his pass to enter keeps failing, and
Yeah,
he's like,
it's
"Oh, what
like,
about
hello.
this?" Then we go, and then Edge has an earpiece of where to go, and they're like, "Oh, go left," and he goes right. So I'm like, "All right." Immediately, Jack Reese doesn't know left from right. So I knew we were kind of in for it for this movie.
It's
Mm-mm.
it's so like we go like the thing about like heist movies, because this is what this is. This is a heist movie. You have to be the crew has to be solid together.
They have no chemistry together at all.
None of these people feel like they were thrown on set
They just met an hour ago.
and they're off to go. Like what you were reading that Joey Lawrence wants. It's like, oh, Ocean's 11. This is like
Well, not Joey Lawrence, the producers.
Oh,
the
the producer.
producers were like,
And Andrew
you know,
Lawrence.
we really like going to Vegas and being rich guys in Vegas. Oh, you know what else is cool? Ocean's 11. You know what else is cool? Con Air. And all this crazy shit. And Andrew Lawrence is like, well, what if we take a casino and put it on a plane?
So I'm going to defend this a little bit, not totally, but a little bit. So originally the plan was to make this very over the top. Like it was going to be a little
Yes,
wink and a nod.
I think it would have been better if that was the case.
Andrew Lawrence said they literally filmed a scene with Edge, him literally winking to the camera, saying, "Hey, we know this is pretty stupid," but the powers that be made them tone it down a little bit. So that's what I think got lost in translation. They really wanted to do an over the top, cheesy 80s 90s flick, but it got toned down to the point where it was just kind of like your run of the mill trying to be way too serious movie. And that's what they try to take it way too seriously, not like where we could as the audience can have like a little wink and a nod saying, hey, we're on the joke. But as the movie goes on, as we're going to see, it kind of goes in a multiple different directions that confuses me as
the idea, the vibe.
So as we continue, the painting is not there. Security comes. Edge's I'm just gonna call him Edge for the rest of the movie because
that's
fine. Because Jack Reese,
I don't even remember his name, and you just said it 2 seconds ago.
His female cohort helped him get out. They have a gun shoot. The person driving the getaway van is Andrew Lawrence, who happens to be the director. And they get away because someone tipped them off about the painting. So with this failed job, Edge meets with Kelsey Grammar. And a fun behind-the-scenes trivia note about this scene is they shot this, but someone was mowing their lawn next door and a dog kept barking. So
no.
When Kelsey Grammar starts talking, his mic is like exploding. Like you could hear the mic exploding when he's talking.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, is Kelsey Grammar's voice really that deep? Is it just exploding the mic? But now it makes more sense because they were accounting for the lawn mowing and the dog across the street.
God forbid they just do ADR afterwards, because not like, I mean, the movie's already cheap. Might as well just do ADR.
Or God forbid you go next door, pay the guy $50 to stop mowing his lawn.
It's like, hey, can you wait an hour? We'll mow your lawn for you. Can you just wait an hour?
And another sweet thing, Adam Copeland, Edge, before he accepted this movie, he got cleared for wrestling. He retired for 9 years from a neck injury. He got cleared. This movie came across his desk before he returned. His mother passed away the year before, and his mother's favorite actor was Kelsey Grammar.
Aww.
So there's a pretty cool connection here when these two are doing their scene together. Because
that's nice.
Edge's first memory of watching TV was Cheers with Kelsey Grammar with his mom.
That's so funny.
So, and now he's getting the chance to act with Kelsey Grammar. That being said, what do you guys think about the chemistry between Edge and Kelsey Grammar during
There
this
is
movie?
none. There is none. It is non-existent.
Like, again,
no one has chemistry with anyone. Let's just put that out there.
The thing about this movie is none of it feels... It feels like it was so thrown together haphazardly.
Yeah, now that you said all that, Richie, about like them wanting to do a certain like kind of goofy tone and then them having to tone it down, it makes a lot more sense now.
Like, the thing is, like, Kelsey Grammar, I think, gets that.
Well, yeah.
because he
That's why he wanted to do it.
yeah, well, that's why he wanted to do it. The mustache twirling, villain. Like, especially at the end where he goes crazy. But like, there's so many things you sit there and you're like, why was this choice made? But everybody's just like, it just doesn't feel like,
Right.
yeah.
They did this one bit where they had like one of Kelsey Grammer's henchmen come out with an easel and like hold it to the back of Edge's head, and they're like, "Oh, I'll make my own Jackson Pollock painting and blow your brains out." And I'm like, "Oh my god, that was so fucking corny and stupid." It's like
I
you're
love
not
that.
intimidating
I love
anybody,
that
Fraiser.
corny. I
It
love
was
that corniness, but because I was like, oh, this is what this movie's gonna be. It's gonna be really corny and over the top. But then
yeah, but then
you're
yeah.
left waiting. It's like, okay, when's the other shoe gonna drop? And it
Yeah,
doesn't.
it's like once in a while they'll throw in like a corny weird thing and then it'll just go back to being boring for half an hour and you're like, "Wait."
Yeah. And another big thing is, and this was intentional by the director and the screenwriter, Andrew Lawrence, the youngest Lawrence brother. I'm gonna keep mentioning that. I don't know why. I think he's fine. He's fine in this movie. He plays Edge's other cohort on the ground when the rest are in the money plane. And the intention was to give Kelsey Grammer all these over the top long monologues of exposition. And during this meeting with Edge, which is their only scene where they're together in a room, Kelsey Grammer is just going over the top. It's like, well, Jack, you met some pretty bad people, and now you have to owe those bad people. And now we have to do the one thing that I want you to do, and that's to fly the money plane, or like whatever it was.
Right.
And the thing is, like, if the exposition isn't as over the top as you wanted to be in the movie, and since it's been more toned down, now it's just, I don't want to use the term boring, but that's what it becomes. It becomes
It is.
boring. It becomes
So.
tedious, where it's like, okay, I have to pay attention to everything right now in order to understand this movie that's supposed to be like an inside joke on all these heist
Right.
films, but now it's just kind of like getting muddled through this seriousness.
Mhm.
And I wrote at this point in my notes, this is really stupid. I'm 8 minutes in.
Well, we kept going like,
We were confused by the plot.
because the plot
Doesn't
doesn't
really the
quite
premise of the movie makes no sense.
make sense. And there are times they say things like, well, one of the first ones was like, oh, they can bet on a man fucking an alligator.
Oh
That
my
was a
god, I wrote
direct
that
line,
line
yeah.
down. That was like the best line in the movie. You want to bet on a man fucking an alligator?
And-
Money plane. I'm like, whoa.
And-
Excuse me.
And Frankie turns to me and goes, what are they betting on? I'm like, I looked at her straight in the face and go, who comes first?
Ew.
So from what I gather from
Gross.
this movie plot, is that the money plane is where you could gamble on illegal activities such as
Right.
what you just mentioned right there. And it kind of reminds me of the movie Condemned, where it's like you have all these rich elitists bet on these prisoners or lower class people about when X person is going to get killed by Y. You know what I mean? So it's like, because it's over international waters, like a gamble. It's a lot. It's very convoluted. Where it was supposed to be that way, but it just didn't work in execution. So
Yeah.
after all of this happens, Edge debriefs his team about the money plane, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're insane," and he's like, "Yeah, and we're gonna do it." And they're
It's also stupid because like the Kelsey Grammer's like, "Oh, well I bought your debt, so you have to pay me back this money or I'm going to kill you cuz you owe me this money." And then Edge is like, "Well, I don't know if I can pull off the money plane thing." And then he's like, "Well, in case you didn't care about me killing you and you owing me money, I have your family too." And it's like, "Well, why did you buy his debt if you could have just threatened his family?" It's like, it seems like you're going the extra mile for no reason.
And speaking of his family, let's cut to Edge's family life with
Ooh, Denise Richards is here.
she's here. She's
Christmas
indeed,
Christmas Jones.
she's indeed here for the movie. And I'm not sure if it was just me, but the kid they got to play Edge's daughter for this role
Mm-hmm.
seems very inconsistently written, as they're trying to write her like a 4 or 5-year-old, but she seems like she's 10 or
Yeah.
11. You know,
I don't think they really thought far enough to like give her like they were just like, make her a little girl. What do little girls do?
because
Well, I love
They they have pillow fights with their dad and talk about candy, and that's it.
well, during that candy scene where they're talking, she like falls asleep like mid sentence.
Yeah.
To end the scene.
And then Edge and Denise Richards just have a full out conversation, knowing full well their daughter's not actually asleep. It's very strange.
yeah.
Also, like we kept going, like, how much does Denise Richards and the daughter know about Edge's criminal activity?
That's the thing. It's never brought up with them. It's never brought up
Yeah.
that like they know about it or anything, which
There's
is
really no purpose to them at all.
where it's fair play, but it's like if they don't know about it, or at least alluding to them knowing that they're in danger, then what's kind of the point of them being in the film for that role?
Right.
You know. And there's also another scene where it was a nice-ish scene with Edge reading Robin Hood. You know, that's laying a little bit on thick that this is kind of like a Robin Hood movie, stealing from the rich to give to the poor or something, which
Mhm.
apparently was the moral of the whole money
Sure.
plane.
That
thing.
and trust your gut. The amount of
But-
times a character will tell Edge to trust his gut is like I was getting annoyed. I was like, if we took a shot every time someone said trust your gut, we would be drunk and dying.
And then what had happened was the next scene, like after that reading to his daughter, to Robin Hood, the next scene that we see her in is playing Call of Duty, or a Call of Duty like
Yes, with-
ripoff.
Yeah.
So I'm confused of like what, like this was probably the most interesting part of the movie to me. I'm like, okay, so it's like she's like young enough where she has to be ready to go to sleep, but she's old enough to play murderous video
Call of
games,
Duty,
and we
right.
know like kids like will play those kind of games young. But I'm just like, I'm confused what the message of like this is going on here.
I was
But I-
confused by the purpose of the family at all, to be quite honest, because it's not like she had it. Denise Richards had no personality. She really didn't have much
Well, that's Denise
rapport
Richards.
with Edge at all. It's not like I don't think they like kissed or hugged at one point in the movie.
I think they
They're
hugged.
supposed to be married.
I think they hugged at the
With a
very
child.
end.
Yeah, okay.
And-
But I don't. I'm like, okay, why did we even need her? You
Okay.
could have, if you wanted him to have like a family or something, you could have had him have a daughter or something if you really wanted to. I don't even think there's a point in that. Take the wife and daughter out and spend more time, giving Edge a personality.
Yeah,
Well, the other thing
Speaking
Have
of
him
which-
have something to do.
Speaking of which, you know what we didn't have in this movie for a long time?
Hmm.
More exposition. Let's bring
Oh my
Edge's
god!
let's bring Edge's friend he met in, I assume, the military. I don't know. They didn't really make it
I
that
would
clear.
assume.
Yeah.
And his job is to kind of be Edge's intel and to keep his family safe just in case things go south.
Well, Scott was
So-
very upset by who the friend Harry was played by.
Yeah. So Harry's played by Thomas Jane.
The
and
Punisher himself.
the Punisher himself. I love Thomas Jane. I've loved him every time I kind of see him in things because I think he's an underrated actor. But it's
He
just
did good in this. I would have rather seen him as the lead.
I think I don't know why he kind of gets like a weird like kind of rap of like he can't act, but like he's fun. He's a fun guy. It's just him, Kelsey Grammar. They just feel like they're too big for this movie.
Kind of.
So,
But
we
to
got
be
more-
fair, Batista did that movie with Robert De Niro and
Negan.
God, yeah, the guy that plays Negan. And them two are like bigger actors at that time, and they were probably too big for a wrestler movie, wrestler movie caliber.
Well, even that thing, I don't think that was. I wouldn't like. This is a wrestler movie.
It
'cause
was
of
a B
wrestler
movie, though,
stars
that
and-
movie.
Yeah, that was a B movie, but
All right,
And they were
let's-
too big for that, and it was good.
Let's get fast forward into this. We also had a dream sequence of a scene that we already saw with Kelsey Grammar, but just
Oh yeah, it's
from
just a
Kelsey
flashback of
Grammer.
the scene from 10 minutes before.
Yeah, so we got that. Again, like all these like tropes that they're pulling and trying to make a parody of like a heist film, they are there. Unfortunately, it's not working like how I guess either they intended or the studio wanted something a little bit more serious for their
Yeah.
catalog. So let's fast forward. We're going to the money plane, and
Yes,
Ooh.
we're
apparently
finally
behind
there.
the scenes, makeshifting the rooms for the money plane were definitely a hassle because they had to move. They had to move shooting to like from Toronto to somewhere else, and it was a whole big thing. And you could see like the money plane. A lot of the sets are just like the interior and curtains. So
Oh, y- yeah, when they're getting into the money plane. Edge and McGillicuddy.
Oh my god, McGillicuddy.
Frankie joked about before. It literally looks just like a bunch of curtains.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so bad. It's
so
so bad, guys.
McGillicuddy is the tech advisor,
Yeah,
and
they gave him a fake name, which it's clearly that because the guy is black, so they made a joke that they gave him the most Irish name possible. Which I mean, I'm sure there are black Irish people in the world, but like, it just seems like we did that for a joke. It's like, why? I don't. It's not funny. I'm
so
not laughing.
so Edge, McGillicuddy, and I think her name is Isabella or something.
Just call her Diet Anna Kendrick.
Yeah, she does look like a Diet Anna Kendrick.
So they're on the plane while Andrew Lawrence is on the ground.
Because he's the director and he can't be in the plane and direct at the same time. It's too much going on.
Yeah, so he has to be the man on the ground so they could do the wire transfer from the money plane to them to give to Kelsey Grammar. At least that is what I have the understanding.
Yes.
So there
Yes.
is more exposition, but this time by not Andrew Lawrence, but his brother, Joey Lawrence.
Joey Lawrence. All in
And
his hair plugs and cheap suit.
he is the concierge.
No, Richie, the concierge. He kept calling it concierge.
I was getting to that, yes. So it's like, and you could see the guy who was with him who played, I guess, a bodyguard. He had one earring. I was questioning the whole movie. Why does he have one earring? And he keeps turning to Joey Lawrence about his pronunciation
Like, dude.
of concierge.
Well, Joey Lawrence is the oldest brother, so you know that Andrew couldn't correct him. He would have got like a purple nurple or something.
So he is essentially the host of the money plane. He tells you, all right, we're going to wear these bands. That's what your net worth is going to be. And like, that's what you bet. And Edge, he is, the alias that he's going by is a notorious sex trafficker. And
Fun.
And they were asking in the beginning of the movie, it's like, well, what if they find out if it's not you? It's like, oh, Isabel took care of that. And there's a quick cut of her like shooting the dude in the head in the car, and there's just like, oh, okay, so that establishes her as kind of like this violent streak person on their team.
Right.
So
yeah, because there's a part here, because they kept hinting that Edge has a problem with gambling.
Oh God, this is so stupid.
That's right.
And he sits down at the table initially to start gambling.
But it's not his money.
It's not his money.
It's fucking Kelsey Grammar's money, because he literally said before they went on the money plane, here, I'm going to front you some money so you can like get on the plane. So he's on the plane with somebody else's money. So whatever gambling he does in the movie, there's no stakes because it's not his fucking money. So if whatever they establish that Edge has a gambling problem in the past or whatever, and he's like, oh, I made one bad call and I lost everything. So then they have him sit down and gamble on the money plane like it means something. And it's like, first of all, it's not your money. Second of all, you're about to steal all the fucking money anyway. So like, what stakes are there here?
And the thing is, it's like he loses everything. Like he said he lost everything, but I'm like, you still have your wife, you still have your kid. Now,
right? And this big house, you have a whole ass house. So like, you didn't really lose everything.
If there was a plot that was like after he met with Kelsey Grammar, he was trying to get back in good graces with his daughter and his wife Denise Richards.
Right.
That would be a little bit more sense, but no.
Or if you had, I said last night when we watched the movie, because they're on this money plane and they do all this crazy shit on this money plane, right? and we establish later on that they kill people on this money plane, and killing people does not matter at all. Joey Lawrence finds a cheater at one point and just shoots him in the head, and like no, and we go right along like we're just living a happy day. So my thing was, what if you just had like a game of Texas Hold'em like they do, but if you lose, you know, like your guy, like your friend or whatever, like you have to put somebody up as your
Collateral
instead of like chips or whatever. And then you have the guy McGillicuddy as his person, and if he loses, then the guy like gets his fucking finger chopped off or something. That's stakes. It's something better than nothing.
So speaking of Texas Hold'em, that's the first event on the money plane. And whoo boy, this is where I threw my remote watching this movie.
I'll bet you did.
Whew. So we have our participants in Texas Hold'em, and then all of a sudden we hear, "Boys, deal me in!"
Yeah! Matthew Lawrence!
And it's Matthew Lawrence of Boy Meets World fame.
Yeah, bitch.
With a cowboy hat and a mustache.
Yeah, that's right.
That moves with the wind.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a notorious Texas Hold'em player. Of course, the cowboy is a Texas Hold'em champion. We couldn't think of anybody else, but it makes sense because this was going to be a parody. Except not.
I know. That's why I'm like, oh, this would have been really funny.
Now it's weird. So,
well, not only that, like he's crazy. He's a lot of fun actually in this little bit.
I can't lose.
Exactly.
It's like, oh my god.
He's a lot of fun. But then there's a part here where I also want to bring up. There's like this Russian arms dealer to the left who's like, I guess, our secondary antagonist of the movie, kind of.
Sure.
And he immediately goes, "Oh, I know you, Edge's persona." And Edge is like, "You do? Oh yeah, we talked online." I'm like, never comes back. It's such a throwaway line.
Yeah, so what they did there was the scene you're talking about. Edge, under his alias as the notorious sex trafficker, is with this notorious illegal arms dealer who plays kind of like a secondary antagonist on the plane, trying to figure out who are these guys really are. And it was just an excuse to kind of give more exposition. Like, he has a partner in crime. They're flirting with the female of Edge's team who's posing as an airport and not an airport,
a
stewardess,
flight attendant.
A flight attendant stewardess. And Edge is kind of like, it's like, that's not very nice. And he's like, why are you saying, like, why do you have a problem with it? You're the notorious human trafficker. And then Edge is like, well, you got me there, you know? So it's just kind of like, it's one of those things where it's like, it was just there just to exposition the secondary antagonists of being bitter, because throughout the heist, Edge says he's feeling a little bit under the weather, so he could go into the cockpit and fly the plane as
stay there for half hour of the movie, the main character just in a little box.
And as the others try to like keep up the cover, so McGillicuddy is taking Edge's place in all these events, as the flight attendant is also the lockpick of the group. She is like an assassin / locksmith person. So I want to preface this. They had a whole entire scene. It's like, okay, this is how we're gonna do it. This is how we're gonna take over the money plane. I'm gonna like knock out the pilot. Then you're gonna go here. You're gonna go here. So they had all this schematics. They had all the files. They had everything set. The only thing is, when Edge takes out the pilot, he turns around, there's a co-pilot. There's a co-pilot on the plane, and he says, fucking co-pilot. And
as
I'm
if
just
you
like,
didn't
why?
know that every plane...
Exactly. Like, why is there no... Like, I get it. You're trying to build up for, like this to be a funny, like, movie, but there's no, like wah-wah. There's no, like, wink to the camera or anything, and this is, like... I feel like the original version of this would have been so much more easier to swallow, because it's kind of like putting half your foot into like a pool, half out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're going to go all the way with it, go all the way with it. But now we have this. But back to Texas Hold'em with Matthew Lawrence and McGillicuddy. And
Oh
now
my god.
this next game is Russian roulette.
Okay, this was funny though. This was actually like funny though.
So they're playing this fucking Russian roulette game, which Matthew Lawrence keeps trying to get McGillicuddy to go first. He's like, "No, well, I'll go first." And
I'll go first. I can't lose.
they keep going back and forth with the gun. And finally, Matthew Lawrence goes, "I can't lose." Grabs the gun, puts it to his chin, and blows his brains out.
Fun.
So they dispose of his body. But before we get to that, there's actually somebody else who was going to play the cowboy in this
I saw this
edition
too.
of The Cast Could Have Been.
Oh my god, it's so bad.
Do you know who it is, Scott?
I think Frankie said Tom Arnold.
That is correct.
Isn't that terrible?
Oh my
Tom
God.
Arnold was supposed to be the cowboy, but let me just say, I think Matthew Lawrence killed it as the cowboy.
But
And I didn't even mean for that to happen.
it literally seems like that whole segment was from another movie and they just put it in this. I know, like, it's so weird.
So, after a fight scene with the co-pilot, which I read up, and it said shooting went for that for about 8 hours, and the co-pilot actually started drawing blood and was exhausted, and Edge had to record for another 4 to 6 hours his parts.
Jesus Christ.
So, blood was
They're
lost
like in a
on the
tin
money
can.
plane.
Like, it's a fucking little thing.
And Edge is 6'4", and the co-pilot is 6'6", and this is an actual sized cockpit. So it's like there's very little room to move.
Yeah, that was a very strange choice.
So Edge disposes of the co-pilot. They put the pilot and co-pilot in the brig, I guess what you call.
I think they
Sure.
put him in the bathroom.
Something like that. The layout of this plane during the whole movie is very confusing.
Who
'Cause
fucking
there's like
knows?
Because there's like a downstairs and there's a downstairs below that. Very confusing stuff for me watching it. But Edge is in the cockpit. McGillicuddy is holding up his end of the bargain by accidentally winning all these bets of all these different events. Like there was one where you're going to bet how long this person is going to survive in a pool full of piranhas. Then they're betting on 2 people fighting in a bar. And McGillicuddy just keeps winning all these events. And the other guy, the arms dealer, is looking at him saying, he's got to be cheating somehow. And McGillicuddy's like, no, I just really don't know what I'm doing. And he's trying to excuse himself. He's throwing up in the bathroom because they're showing him live feeds of all these disturbing videos.
Which just
Meanwhile-
opens up a real can of worms as to like how is that part of the money plane? Like how does that whole part of the games work? Like do they just kidnap random people and like throw them into a pool of piranhas? Like what's
And-
the logic of this?
and meanwhile, we have the stewardess who's trying to get into the safe so she can initiate the transfer for McGillicuddy to come in with his techno babble whatsits. But
Oh yeah, I didn't listen to any of the technical shit because none of it made sense. I was like, oh, blah blah blah.
but there's somebody guarding her, so she's gonna use her sexy ways to seduce
Ew.
this person. But out of nowhere, she just rips the dude's ears off, which kills him, and uses
That's
his
so funny.
she uses his thumbprint to open up the safe. And
I love during that whole part. She's like, "Oh, this is a different door than we prepared for. I can't pick this." And she looks at the guy's hand and goes, and just puts his thumb up. Like, "Oh, that fixed that."
oh,
I mean,
good,
I didn't have to
problem
bring that up.
solved.
Was
And
that the
then-
part where where she's like, "Oh, you can't come down here," and the guy goes, "Well, rules were made to be fucked," and I'm like, "Whoa." Is that part?
No, that was before.
That was super gross. All the men on this plane are super gross and terrible. And I'm not just talking about Joey Lawrence's hair plugs. They're
Well,
all just awful.
they're bad people. That's
They're
why they're
just
so
terrible.
awful. So, meanwhile, while that's going up in the sky, Andrew Lawrence is on the ground trying to set up this whole technological thing. And this is where I got angry again at this movie. And it's
Oh, no.
always the inconsequential things that make me upset. So he's on the ground. He's setting up this techno stuff. He's talking to Edge in the cockpit. And Edge is like, can you just set it up already? He's like, okay. So he's sweating. He's putting all these technology things to use. And then he peels a banana, but not a normal way to peel a banana. This is what he does. He takes a pocket knife and he starts slicing the peels of the banana. And I said, that is not how you peel a banana. What is wrong with you, Andrew Lawrence? You're a
There's so much
monster.
wrong with
Peel it
it.
like a person,
Oh
please.
no.
There's so many. Oh my god. So
Okay.
I didn't even think we were gonna bring up the banana.
Oh, we're bringing it up because that really made me angry.
Between
Like,
that, him
absurdly angry. I know it doesn't mean anything, but for me, I'm just like, what is the point of this? I understand if you're trying to do the over the top thing, but if the studio says, all right, you're gonna tone it down a little bit, you can't leave the banana scene in there because that doesn't make any sense. Why are we wasting film on the banana peeling being so awkward? And you know what this movie reminded me of? And I finally got it. I finally got what this movie is trying to accomplish. Do you remember those YouTube videos of Ross is a psychopath if you edit out the laugh track?
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like that. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
but they made it on purpose.
Oh my god.
It's so bad.
So, after all that, they're trying to initiate the transfer of the money plane. But before that, Edge is calling up Kelsey Grammar on his laptop, and Kelsey said, "Where's my feed? I want a feed to the money plane," which is just Edge in the cockpit. So,
It doesn't make any
eh,
sense.
so Kelsey Grammer will call in every now and then, and he's like, "Oh, we want code names. How about you're captain and I'm colonel, or something like that?" Since Edge was apparently a captain at one point.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And the other issues, like, again, Edge is your star of your movie. Don't stick your star of the movie in the cockpit for 30 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, just talking to nothing and being nothing. Like he's just sitting there, and it's I don't know. It's bad.
So,
Like,
It's bad, guys.
so when this is occurring, the Punisher calls Edge and
Ah.
saying, and this is the big twist of the movie because all movies have to have twists nowadays. Calls Edge
Uh-huh.
saying the painting was stolen by this company, and this company is owned by, drumroll please, Kelsey Grammar.
Why would he steal a painting he already owns?
Because he
I
was
don't know.
because
I
he was
don't know
trying to
the
get
answer to that.
he was trying to get Edge to rob the money plane to do
But
that. So to
why?
make
He could have
Edge
just
steal.
said, "I'll kill your fucking family if you don't." He didn't have to go through all of this.
It's
I
a
have your
very,
wife and
very
child and your
complicated.
dog. I'll kill all of them.
It's a very complicated plan.
It's stupid. It's what it
Yep.
is. It's
So
annoying.
besides
Almost
this,
as annoying as the banana.
so
Almost.
besides, we're gonna get to another one of my favorite scenes in a bit. But here we go. So not only is the stewardess overkilling everybody, she's overkilling the arms dealer's sidekick, who's a perv.
Yes.
Smashed a bottle on his chest, so it's bleeding. Then cut to smashing another bottle onto his head, but magically the blood that was on his chest has disappeared.
Yes.
So I don't know what happened there. But anyway, the technology,
It's sugar glass.
yeah,
It's not
technology
real glass, so it's fine.
technology to transfer the money plane is going haywire for a little bit, but Edge found out all of this about the painting, and then goes to one of his favorite sayings that he started the movie with: "Your plan B has to be as good as your plan A." Where I'm like, all right, valid. So Edge calls an audible, saying, all right, Kelsey Grammer isn't going to get any of this money on the money plane. We're going to donate it all to charity. I'm like, all right, cool. But Kelsey Grammer finds out about the double cross, immediately sends his guys off to kill Edge's family and Andrew Lawrence. So we're going to go down to the ground to Andrew Lawrence first because this is the one that really made me angry. So,
The day for night.
yeah. So
Where
Kelsey
it's
Grammer,
obviously in the day and there's shadows everywhere, but they have a dark film over it to make you think it's night.
So Kelsey Grammer sends his guys because he was planning to double cross Edge anyway because all of them were in the air. and throw him under the bus for the money plane scheme so he could get all the money. So Andrew Lawrence is then attacked. But then, but then, the Punisher comes to his rescue, but not in what you think. It's not, oh, he's going to have a couple of his army buddies to help him out. No. That would be a little bit too much sense. We have a drone with a gun.
Of course we do.
We have a drone with a gun taking out 8 people, at least.
Sure.
The best part about it is after the drone shoots one person, no one looks at the drone. They all just let themselves get shot by the drone.
It's very weird.
To be fair,
but look,
if I saw
it's a drone with a gun on it. Isn't that cool?
To be fair, if I saw a drone with a gun, I would be confused first, and then I would get shot. So then the guys who are going to try to kill Edge's family then get killed by the Punisher. And it's like, well, that was all for naught.
It's so stupid too, because like early in the movie, they also set up that the Punisher guy, he's like, oh, I would sure love to fly again. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, so they're gonna have him get on the money plane at the last minute to help them or something. No. And then I'm like, oh, so is this the payoff to him wanting to fly again? He flew a fucking drone? That's not a payoff. This movie sets up things and then does the worst payoffs imaginable. It's so bad.
Speaking of worst payoffs imaginable. Here we go. So,
oh boy.
After the original plan of the money plane, after they cryptocurrency billions of dollars of Bitcoin, I wasn't paying attention.
I didn't.
It's digital money. So
right.
They were going to do all that, but now they're donating it all to charity. But what Edge was doing was he was secretly recording Kelsey Grammar.
Okay, let's get into this real quick.
Oh no.
Because your turn.
I want to get into this because this, as a guy who knows tech, drives me nuts. So Edge had set up during their first meeting a recording device underneath the main table where Kelsey Grammar does his business, and that would record Kelsey Grammar, and you sit there and you're like, okay. A, you didn't know Kelsey Grammar was behind everything when you would have had to set this up. And B, how was that thing being powered for days?
It's very far-fetched, and it would be a lot better if they were able to lean into the over-the-topness of such movies. But unfortunately, we have a watered-down version of it. But anyway, we're in the cockpit, and Edge plays over the loudspeaker. Kelsey Grammar saying his full name of the movie and saying, I'm the
Darius Grouch III, which, by the way, he says his nickname is the Rumble, but if your last name is Grouch, your nickname's the Grouch, bro. Like, sorry. Call yourself Oscar because your nickname's the Grouch.
So he plays that over the plane PA system, saying he's like, I'm better than everybody on the money plane. I will steal from the money plane. So, and then we cut to Joey Lawrence in the cockpit, saying, my men have assured me that Kelsey Grammar will be dead in the next couple minutes. Who wants to wager a bet on that? And all your funds that were stolen will be replenished to you. So then we cut back to the ground, and Kelsey Grammar is being paranoid because now people are going to kill him. And his main bodyguard is like, all right, man, I'm out. And Kelsey Grammar's like, oh, yes. Let me show you the door. And then he shoots him in the back and then does a Scarface like standoff, just shooting a Tommy gun as our heroes. They jump off the plane, they parachute. The female gives the double fingers to the Kelsey Grammar character, which I'm like, yep, that's what this movie's about.
Yep.
As we cut to a couple months later. And a couple months later, they stole the painting. They stole the painting, and you know how I know they stole the painting? Because they replaced the painting with a sketch drawing of sketch is putting it nicely. It was a doodle. It was a
There's a
doodle.
little stick figure
A little
person
stick
with his
figure
middle finger
doodle.
up.
Yep, just flipping the bird off. Because again, the painting was Kelsey Grammar's, and now finally everyone can retire. And now Edge is on the phone with the Punisher, and the Punisher's like, "Well, you got your painting. Now you can split it 4 ways between your crew." And Edge is like, "Make it 5 ways." So now the Punisher gets a cut of the movie. And the
Oh,
movie ends with the family, Edge, Denise Richards, and the daughter all petting their dog.
because
And
that's what it's all about. It's
that's
all
what it
about
is.
the family,
It was all about family. It was all about
just
Fast
like
and
Fast and the
Furious.
Furious.
Yeah. That's what this movie was all about.
Yep.
So, oh
Jesus Christ.
gosh. So that was Money Plane.
That was Money Plane. It made no sense and it was bad.
Now, as an idea of a heist film taking place on a gambling plane, do you think this could have worked? And in what setting did you think could have worked? Could it work as a serious film? Did you think it could work as a comedy film? What would you see this idea working, if at all?
If
Well-
sorry.
No, go ahead.
If we did an over the top comedy, it could work, but it also probably could have worked as a serious kind of thing.
No.
Well,
No.
I think
Where?
now, hear me out. I think it could work as a serious thing, but you have to have a better writing and be like there could have been something here. It's not here.
I don't know about that.
If you had like Ocean's 11 and just put it on the plane, this could work.
You gotta call
theoretically.
it something else, though. You can't call it Money Plane. Money
No.
Plane sounds like a cheesy 80s, 90s fucking. Like, it sounds like it would be Con Air and Ocean's 11 had a baby, which is, I think, kind of what they wanted originally. And
That
it
was
got,
the idea.
watered
That
down.
was the idea. That was the idea that
So-
they said they wanted Con Air with Ocean's 11 kind of plots where
Which, if you're doing it in that way, where it's like, it's kind of a. Not necessarily even a parody, just like almost like a love letter to those kind of like cheesy 80s 90s heist, like action adventure comedy type thing. Like, that could be fun, but you can't do it seriously like this, and you can't do it with people that just started acting at like the community college 2 months ago.
oh, okay.
And Kelsey Grammar.
For wrestler movies, where would this rank for you?
Low.
Like,
This is not.
Is it worst of all time? Is it worse than Wrong Side of Town?
No, Wrong Side of Town is worse than this.
I've never seen that, and I
don't-
never will.
You never will.
Oh, don't make me now.
Don't do that to
make
me, Richie.
Wrong Side of Town.
Someone needs to share my pain.
The Condemned 2, I would probably put below this too. Yeah, there's a lot of bad wrestling movies.
I'll say compared to the one I watched from 2016, The Interrogation, I think this one was better, but it had more like silly things in it. The Interrogation was just bad. It just like it was boring and bad like this one, but this one at least had a couple of like silly things that like made you wake up for a couple of minutes and be like, "Oh right, I'm watching a movie." The Interrogation didn't have that. It had, weirdly enough, it had a lot of similarities to this, where in the beginning you have the Edge narrating stuff, and then at the end it comes back, but there's a twist. There's a big twist that makes no sense in that movie too. And yeah, that's pretty much, and it's boring. That's where the similarities stop. But I wanted to watch another movie of his because I wanted to see if like he's still like if he's just as wooden. I would say he's less wooden in Money Plane probably than he was in Interrogation, but still wooden.
Do you think with Edge, from what you've seen of him, now him being cast in Disney Plus's Percy Jackson and the Olympians, do you think it depends on the director depending on his performance?
Oh, the director has a huge thing to do with it. I think that happens with all these guys because, let's face it, doing a wrestling show is very different. It's like live theater versus movies. They're two very different animals. I think having a seasoned director or seasoned actors acting alongside you can help you out, especially when you are on the greener side of things. I also think, even when you look back at Edge's wrestling days, when he was a good guy, it's never as fun as when he was a villain.
I agree, yeah.
He's a better heel than he is a babyface.
All right, now usually after movies you review on Shoot the Flick, you give them the star rating, like in wrestling matches, you give a star rating, and we're recording this during your bad movie month.
That is true. And oh boy, does this fit?
So, what would you rank this movie, and is it the worst bad movie you've seen during your bad movie month?
I think it is. I gave it a half a star out of 5.
Now,
I want to go watch Spice World again.
Oh no.
After this.
I gave it a half a star as well, but
you don't ever want to watch Spice World again.
No,
I get it, Scott.
No. I would definitely watch Spice World over this ever again.
What about High School Musical?
I would watch High School Musical over this too.
Scandal.
But I think Avatar: The Last Airbender movie, not the show, movie, was worse than this. Because as much as Money Plane is bad, and it is bad, it doesn't physically make me angry.
Okay, that's a good thing.
That's a valid point.
So, yeah.
I liked the initial idea they were going for with the cheesy heist 80s movies of the past and kind of poking fun of it, but they never fully dipped their toes into it.
And weirdly enough, that's probably exactly what people needed during the pandemic, just like something to make them laugh. But yeah. No.
But unfortunately, it's not like a so bad it's good kind of movie.
No.
Despite us being very angry at some parts, but it's like literally the parts that made me obscenely angry are just
if you're really passionate about bananas,
you're not gonna like this movie. Yeah, it was just so.
You got
ridiculous.
blood on the terracotta.
Not the terracotta.
It was just. Again, am I happy I saw it? I don't know if I'll go that far, but now
I wouldn't either.
My curiosity has peaked. I don't think if I'll see this movie again anytime soon.
I don't think Edge is gonna have a long-standing acting career like a Dave Bautista or a
I think Edge
Dwayne Johnson.
I think Edge works best probably on television shows, because this seemed like a plot out of a TV show more than a movie. And
it was shot like a TV show.
Yeah, like it was very kind of condensed into like a very long TV special rather than a blockbuster movie. So I think Edge, depending how he does with Percy Jackson and the Olympians, I think he's going to be fine regardless.
We'll see. He needs the right role.
Yeah. Well, he plays Ares, and from what I saw in the set photos, I'm like, oh, it's just Edge holding a sword. That's cool. So, I too give it a quarter or half a star out of 5. And yeah, if you watch this movie, great, but we're warning you. You're going to have a questionable amount of time being passed. It's an hour and 20-minute movie that feels like at least 3 or 4 hours.
If you want to know how not to write a movie or direct a movie, you could watch this and learn what not to do.
Just watch this, The Room.
Well, you can watch.
I'm not putting The Room and Super Commando on the same level as this movie, because The Room was like spectacularly bad.
Yeah, The
Like
Room's like
like
it's
it
so
was
bad it's good.
like it was like so bad it's good. This I don't even think I could give it that. Like there are
No.
a couple of tropes where I'm just like, oh, all right, they're obviously referencing like over explanation of dialogue. They're doing like over the top like kill scenes with a man getting thrown in piranhas, but if I wanted like all of that, I felt like I was watching a giant thing of just like shock humor compilations you could find on YouTube, and I feel like that would be a shorter amount of time than sitting down here and watching dialogue, something shocking, dialogue, Matthew Lawrence in a mustache, dialogue, like all of that. So I would say if only if you're extremely very curious, watch it, but it's with a very, very bold italicized asterisk.
Mm.
Or you can watch one of the 10 billion reviews of this movie where people are like, "This isn't good."
Yeah, they're
Especially
probably
this
funnier.
one.
Yeah,
Yes.
listen
Yeah,
to this one.
Give me clicks.
And
right.
then come over to
Oh.
our show and give us clicks too.
All
That's
the
right.
clicks.
That's right. You guys are, of course, have your own podcast. Shoot the flick. Tell the viewers where we could spot you and find you.
Well, if you were intrigued by the dulcet tones of myself and Scotty Eisenberg, please find your way over to anywhere where pods are casted. Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, all those type tings. And look up Shoot the Flick. We post new episodes pretty much every week where we introduce each other to new cinematic masterpieces, just like this one. But some of our movies are actually good. Not all of them, but some.
We've done everything from Spice World to Predator.
All right.
That is definitely a very variety
I
scale.
prefer
from
Spice
there.
World. Is that bad? If someone gave me a choice, you watch Predator or Spice World, I'll watch Spice World.
All right, I promise when I bring you guys on next time, it will be a much better wrestler being featured in a movie.
Yay.
All right, but until then, my name is Richie Mars. You can follow this show on Instagram, the Twitter, and the TikTok at Retold Richie Mars. TTFN, ta-ta for now. We've only been going for a little over an hour, and I'm exhausted talking about this movie.
Same.
Money Plane.
Money Plane.
No.
TTFN, take care, guys.